I know you got words to say about your New York Jets here. Vikings come away with the win 23-17. Let's take a look at the Vikings' top 5 graded players from this game. Offensive tackle Brian O'Neill is at the very top of this list with a 90.9 grade. He had a fantastic performance, as did the veteran Andrew Van Ginkel, their edge rusher, 85.0. Linebacker Ivan Pace Jr. continues to be someone who was overlooked in the draft class. Drafted on day 3. Not really. What?
Undrafted.
Oh, he did go undrafted.
Didn't get drafted at all. He's one of the great undrafted steals of the last decade.
That is so ridiculous that my brain cannot remember that, because you're not the first person to remind me of that. But I thought it was, look, he's not built like an NFL linebacker. I understand. But he was so insanely productive, especially as a blitzer at Cincinnati. It blew my mind that he did not go drafted, which could, again, you're not the first person to correct me on that because my brain cannot compute it. Anyways, he's number 3 on this list, 79.2. One of the best pass rushing linebackers, inside linebackers, I should say, in the NFL. Safety Cam Bynum with a 76.1. Linebacker Blake Cashman with a 72.9. Sam Darnold, not his best day. 47.9 grade in this one. We flip sides to the New York Jets. Linebacker Jameon Sherwood. No CJ Mosley in this one, so Sherwood had to step up. 90.3 overall grade. Cornerback DJ Reed with a 78.8. At number 2, Elijah Vera Tucker, their guard, 79.3. Garrett Wilson at number 4 with a 76.8, excuse me. And then edge rusher Solomon Thomas with a 74.7. Aaron Rodgers in this game, I would say not much better than Sam Darnold, but literally not better than Sam Darnold according to our grades. 46.4, but both quarterbacks struggling in this one. Stat that told the story here, Dalton. What is it?
All right, you mind if I just wrap this in most disappointing all in one, because it's just all the same thing?
I was going to say you're not allowed to just say Robert Saleh, but go ahead.
Okay,
if you're gonna get into a whole speech thesis here,
it's
go
a
ahead.
whole thing.
Yes.
So it's similar to what I told you last week about just not being prepared to start the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's my stat: their first 12 plays, even beyond with the 2 interceptions, I get it. 2 interceptions is awful. Pick 6, Van Ginkel, that whole bit. Their first 12 plays, they had 19 yards. They're just never. They're never ready to play in the first quarter, ever. And look, here we go. Their offensive grade ranks this year. First quarter, last in the NFL. In quarters 2 through 4, the 13th. They're a good offense for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
first quarter, dead last. All right. First drive of the game. First drive. Maybe you come out in the first drive, you play well. 30th, third worst in the NFL. First 15 plays. Okay, a theory. Here's the scripted plays. Right. Every coach writes up 15 plays. Dead last in the NFL in offensive grade. Just even the first play of any given drive, the drive starter, right? We talk about, you want a positive play. You want 6 yards on that first. You want a good first down play, get in a rhythm, right? 29th. They just don't set themselves up for success at all. The beginning of all of these games, win or lose, even the Tennessee game and the New England games that they won, the first quarter is just an issue. It's been an issue since this regime has been there. If it's Mike LaFleur, if it's Nate Hackett, Robert Saleh's the constant and all of it. There are 3 things, the 3 things here that you have to do, okay, that you need to win and lose football games, right? Mm-hmm. There's talent. You can win and lose with talent, okay? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're just better than the other team. We're going to get into a couple games today where one team was just better than the other one, right? That's on the GM, okay? There's execution, okay, going out there and doing what you need to do. That's the players. There's preparation. That's on the coaches to get your team prepared, to execute, right? Those 3 things, you need all 3 of those things to win. And to me, it's that last one. It's preparation, where the Jets, it's just not there. And they continue to go out there and do the same things. Their offense right now, and I know Aaron Rodgers, he didn't play well. No, he didn't. But against what right now is an elite team, how do you expect him to go out there and play well against this defense, against Brian Flores, with no plan at all? And every week it's the same thing. The first play, they have 2 tight ends on the field, and one of them motions, and they run inside zone that way with the motion. It's the same first play every week. It's the same package of plays every week. And then we get to a point in the game where it's like, oh no, we're behind again. And it's just their offense right now is just Aaron Rodgers trying to will them towards the end zone. There's no plan, there's no scheme. I would argue it's the most vanilla offense in the entire league. If I looked at motion things, if I looked at anything right now, and the biggest problem, as it's been for 3.5 years with the Jets, not just this year, the first quarter, why do they call them quarters, Trevor? Because there's 4 of them. And they seem to not know that the first one you play football in. I'm serious.
They're not the only team. I just mentioned the Steelers. We're going to get to another team.
They're not the only one, but they are the premier team that does not play in the first quarter. They're the team. Last 30th, last 29. Anything I could think of in the first quarter, they're last in, especially offensively. And look, and I said it to somebody else earlier in the week. If you have all the pieces on the field that you need, talent-wise, and you're still failing, it's not an on-field problem. At least not on Sundays. What are they? Every single week it looks the same in the first quarter. I just want to, I would honestly want to know what they do during the week. That they come out here when they just had a bad loss, right? You have a huge game against the Vikings. And a game they still could have won. There's a lot of people that argue they're more talented than the Vikings. The Jets have a boatload of talent. And they go out there in the first 12 plays, they have 19 yards.
Yeah.
And it's every week. Even in their wins in the first quarter, it takes so long to get the ignition just running that they don't give themselves. Then you fall behind a good team like this. You're down 17-0. Honestly, I don't even feel that much of a need to talk about anything in this game after the point where it's 17-0, because that's the Jets.
You can't spot a team 17 points.
No,
Right.
And it's a normal occurrence. When I look at, they're down 17-0 early. They had 19 yards in their first 12 plays. They still had too many penalties, especially in the secondary this week. It's actually, and they didn't run the ball at all. It's actually a normal day at the office. It's not any different than any other week. This is actually a normal week. And, the score shows, they only lost by 6 and Rodgers and this and that. But, your 40-year-old quarterback having to just will you through vanilla schemes into a win against a really good team doesn't work. So I most disappointed. It's Salah and it's Nathaniel Hackett. There's just nothing here. On top of the fact they have Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. They're last in the league in rushing.
Well, okay, so this is a good transition into my stat that told the story and most disappointing, because I'll wrap it in as well, because both of those statistics for me are for the New York Jets as well. Vikings fans, we know that you're watching this. We'll get to the most impressive, which is what the Vikings did, because we both have Vikings on that list. But, kind of what you're talking about. Not being able to establish yourself not only early in the game, but early in the drives, goes into just going into this week. They had the 9th most third down attempts in the NFL. They're putting themselves in third down situations. They're behind the 8 ball constantly. So they're they're fighting for, some offensive coordinators fight for first downs. Other offensive coordinators fight for third and manageable. And it's the goal is to get the first down. The goal is not to...
The goal is to score points at the end of the day. As efficiently as you can.
And I'm not saying that every play that you have to run has to be beyond the sticks. There's a flow to things and setting things up. And again, putting yourself in manageable situations is important. But I think that Adam Gase, not to bring up other bad Jet memories, but Adam Gase was... It felt notorious for, I just want to set up third and manageable. No, you want to get a first down. That's what you want to do. And it felt like he just really didn't want to do that. And it felt like not specifically his first down plays, but his second down plays were an indicator of that. You're not even trying to pick this up. You're just trying to get to 3rd and 4. It's dude, call something that can get you a little bit further. So anyways, Jets on third down. I wanted to mention they had the 9th most third down attempts going into this week. So your stat sort of complements that. They were 5 for 17 on third down in this game. 29%. That's not good. Now, the rest of the season, I want to give them their props. They were 3rd in the NFL before this past week, 46%. So they've been able to convert. But everything looks so difficult on this offense. Everything looks so difficult. And I think it's a lot of things, but I wonder if an element of this really is Rodgers, because there was something that was sort of going around Twitter, Instagram, whatever, where last week Baker Mayfield, I think, went on a podcast and he talked about how different the locker room was, or players in the Tampa locker room tell him it was different when Brady was there versus when he is there. With Brady, it was the quote, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember this to explain it correctly. The quote that Baker basically had is, there was pressure at all times with Brady. Now, it worked out because it forced everyone to be better. There was a lot of pressure because it was like the MJ thing in The Last Dance, where he's like, I don't care if I wasn't your friend. We were winning championships. That's what it takes to win championships. And even Brady, after he heard Baker Mayfield's comments, was basically said the same thing that MJ did. He's like, I played the game a certain way. We won championships because of it. And he's like, I don't regret that at all. I wasn't going to hold your hand through it. I was going to be the leader that I needed to be. I was going to get in your ass if I needed to, and we were going to be a better football team because of it. And we were going to win championships, and they did. And that's a way that you can win. With Baker, it's a little different. With Baker, it's like the camaraderie. There's not really this pressure. They're playing fun. They're playing free. Both ways are successful in the NFL. But right now, getting back to the Jets, it looks like everyone's nervous. It looks like everyone doesn't want to let Aaron Rodgers down. The head coach, the offensive coordinator, the wide receivers, the offensive line, the running backs. It looks like everybody's just really tense. I better not screw up.
That's just the Jets. That's why the Jets have been in a 15-year playoff drought, because they feel this pressure that really shouldn't be there. But I'll tell you something though. I'll tell you something though about Brady and the Bucs though, is that you had Bruce Arians, a very notoriously old school coach when it came to stuff like that with Tom Brady. They were in sync on that. I don't think Rodgers and Saleh are in sync on the attitude of this team.
It doesn't feel like
I don't. I'm not really sure what type of attitude that Saleh wants to have. I think from what we've seen on the field for 3.5 years, it's the same thing like you said with kind of like Pittsburgh. Let's get to the fourth quarter and let our defense win the game. And I don't think they have an idea of like, hey, you could win these games early because you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and all these weapons, right? It's not this. I think Rodgers would love to go out there and be aggressive and get a 14-point lead like they did against New England and do all that, right? But I think there is a disconnect. I think there's a disconnect, and I think there is this. This is just the hard part of being the Jets, because now you've got the longest playoff drought in North American sports. And there is pressure just to make the play. It feels like there's a Super Bowl level of pressure just to make the playoffs.
No, sure.
Just to win 10 games, because they've had so little winning in their franchise. I think Rodgers has tried to come in and change the culture, but you need your head coach to be in sync and enforce that. And I don't know that that's happening, because everything at
things are going well, but they're not going well.
Everything at the beginning of these games is too lax. I don't know what they.
I think it's too tight, man.
I mean,
think they're like, okay, we got to run this because I feel like this is what we're supposed to run. Like this is how we set ourselves up into like third and manageable.
They've been like this for 3 years already, though.
All right.
Even before
You're
Rodgers, it's been even with Zach Wilson, and I know Zach Wilson was real bad, but like even with bad quarterbacks, come out with a plan. They look like they have no plan.
No.
I don't know what the identity of this offense is. If you're last in the league in rushing and Rodgers is out there just trying to force it now.
Also, I want to say this, and I don't know if people are going to kill me for this. If Davante Adams is on the Jets, they win this football game. I think they win this football game because the style of play that they want to have here is that their wide receivers are in single coverage and tight coverage so much. And Rodgers is like, I'll put the ball where it needs to go. Just catch the football. And that obviously like works. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. It's not like he's 100% perfect, but we've talked about nobody's better at the back shoulder fade, right? Like nobody's better nobody's better at just like putting it over the defender with single coverage. He puts the ball exactly where it needs to be and expects the wide receiver to run underneath it, whether there's a corner hanging over him or not. He puts it where it needs to be. If you have Davante, this team's 51.3 receiving grade as a team versus single coverage. Davante Adams' grade against single coverage this year, even just this year, 75.5. They win this football game if they have Davante Adams because, in my opinion, they convert a couple more of those fourth downs, and that allows them, even with the offense that's exactly the same.
And they get just enough to do it.
Now,
but it's still not sustainable the way that
problem for the Jets.
Right.
But if they want to play this brand of football, the way that we're seeing them play, if you don't go trade for Davante Adams, I don't think it works to the level it needs to for you to make the playoffs.
No, I agree with that.
So, my most disappointing, just real quick, Jets run blocking as well. Breece Hall, negative 0.6 yards before contact again this game. That means 3 out of the 5 games that Breece Hall has played this season, he has had a negative yards before contact average. The most he's ever had in a single game so far this season is 0.4. So it's bad. They just cannot block for one of the weapons that they really want to go to, being a run blocking team. My most impressive. Can we get to the Vikings? I know the Vikings fans.
5-0.
I was going to say, I know Vikings fans are like, stop talking about the Jets. We won the football game. You did. You're 5-0. We've talked about the Vikings a bunch already this season. It's been an unbelievable job by Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores. My most impressive, Vikings offensive line continues to impress me every single week. Now, it wasn't their best game this past week because I think the Jets' defensive line is still fine, but 72.3 run blocking grade as a team, 64.8 pass blocking grade as a team, but it just felt like, especially early on in the game, they were able to set the tone because of their offensive line. So it really impresses me, not only what the coordinators are doing, but what the offensive line is allowing them to do as well. Who is your most impressive?
For me, it's a guy I've had, I think, for the second time in 5 weeks, Andrew Van Ginkel. Just a gamer. Just, again, does everything that Brian Flores needs him to do. 3 pressures in this game, 76.4 run defense grade with a run stop. The pick 6 early that set the tone for the whole game, dropping off the one guy to drop off a 0 blitz. And again, it just shows the difference in preparation between the two teams. That pick 6, they're lined up in a 0 look. It is a 0 coverage, but he's the one guy that drops into the exact hot window they knew was coming. Ball's thrown right in his chest. Scores 10-0 right there. So I think Andrew Van Ginkel, a 91.9 coverage grade, second pick 6 of the year.
Yeah.
Weirdly against both New York teams, so he just knows what he's doing against those two.
King of New York.
He was one of my favorite free agent fits for the Vikings, and this exact defense and everything he can do. Andrew Van Ginkel's a tone setter. He set the tone in this game. He's an incredible football player, and he's in a perfect defense for his skills.
Spent a lot of time on that game. I figured we probably would.
I'll take the blame for that.
Some emotions and some debates would come up, but I thought that it was a needed conversation with where the Jets are and what they showed us yesterday morning.